Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Eugene Stefanov, and I'm part of the marketing team at Perficient. I'm very excited to be moderating today's webinar, Unleash the Power of Oracle BI Publisher for Argus Safety. The audio for today's session should be coming through your computer speakers. Please make sure your volume is all the way up. We are recording today, and we will email you with information on how to access the recording and slide deck within 1 or 2 business days. Time permitting, we will answer questions at the end of the session. So if you have any during today's presentation, please feel free to enter those in the questions box. In a moment, I'll hand it over to our speakers, but first, let me give you a quick overview of Perficient. So Perficient is a leading global digital consultancy with unparalleled strategy and technology capabilities. We have numerous locations across the US and Europe, as well as nearshore and offshore delivery centers in Latin America, Eastern Europe, India, and China. Founded in 1997, we're a public company that's traded on the NASDAQ, and we have more than 4,500 employees. We have strategic partnerships with major technology vendors and also have dedicated solution and industry practices. One of these industry practices is, of course, life sciences. This slide shows our depth of experience. You can see that we have relationships with 30 of the world's largest public life sciences companies. And since this webinar focuses on Argus safety, we've highlighted some capabilities that revolve around the solution. We've been working with Argus for many, many years and have a team that's dedicated to safety and PV. All right, now that I've covered the housekeeping items and told you a little bit about Perficient, I'd like to pass it over to today's speakers, Kari Owens and Kruthi Roudur. And I'm going to change to Kari.
So good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I'm Kari Blaho-Owens, the director of our PV and safety group here at Proficient within our life sciences business unit. And we're actually really excited to share some things that we have done lately around Argus safety and using BI Publisher in a way that we really have not seen a lot of before. So today we'd like to do 2 things. Number one is show you some of the things that you can do with BI Publisher and how it can make your life easier. And secondly, one of the things that we continue to struggle with, I think, is pharmacovigilance and technology come closer and closer, is the dialogue between the technical team and the operational team or the business team. So Kruthi and I will be going back and forth, and it's just a example of a way that the conversation can be more meaningful so that you're not disappointed. So I'll turn it over to Kruthi.
Thank you, Kari. Hey, folks. Good morning or good evening, depending on where you guys are joining us from. This is Kruthi Roudur, and I am the lead SME for safety at Proficient. And currently at Proficient, I'm involved in safety implementations, trainings, validation, and upgrade projects. And back to you, Kari.
Thanks. So what we'll do is basically go through a couple of problems that we've noted, and then I'll give it back to Kruthi, and we'll show you actually what you can do with BI Publisher and how it's made the operational group and those who are responsible for oversight, how it's made their lives a little bit easier. And then we will do Q&A, and Eugene will facilitate that. So, you know, it's no secret that most of us struggle with getting meaningful reports of our PV data, and there are plenty of things out there, third party or within the database, that you can use. In my other life, working within pharma and CRO, I always struggled with getting the right reports and having digested data that was suitable for the person who was asking. And it can be very difficult. It can be very frustrating. There are multiple ways that people look at data. And in today's world, we have cross-functional teams that are asking about the data, that are asking about trends, and so we wanted to find a way that would enable Argus users to be able to generate these types of reports in a very easy way that was flexible. So, you know, part of our PV world is answering requests and interpreting data, which sometimes can stress the system, especially if you're in the middle of a large project like an aggregate report. You're putting together, you know, PV RER, or it's a peak season for case processing for you. And the other thing that we've noted over the last 6 to 9 months is that the power of using BI Publisher is not really discussed in a robust way. So we've opened up this dialogue with some of our partners, and it's truly incredible what it has been able to do as far as streamlining their workflow and giving them the ability to provide information easily and in a format that is appropriate for the end user. The cool thing about BIP with Argus Safety is it's an easy way to generate and to customize your reports. You can use multiple presentations depending on whether somebody is a visual learner or they like flat reports and numbers. It takes away some of the issues that you may see in reports that are generated where there's multiple line breaks for the same case, which makes it difficult to look at the data in a streamlined way, or you have to go in and manually manipulate the data, which takes more time. BIP can be on demand, and one of the things that I see as a benefit for an organization as a whole is you don't need to be an Argus user to be able to generate these reports. So if someone is overseeing, let's say, the workflow, and they need metrics reports several times a day, they don't have to have Argus access to be able to generate these reports. So if you have someone who is perhaps your outsourcing vendor and they're doing your case processing, and you want to be able to see, you know, are they meeting their SLAs, or is your own group meeting SLAs, you can do that with BIP and pull that data from your Argus safety database. And importantly, it's real-time data. So if I'm talking about, for example, I mentioned metrics on case processing, I may want to look at it multiple times during the day. So one of the things that really prompted us to share this was an opportunity that we had to alleviate some frustration with one of our partners. They were currently generating multiple reports every day, and it required multiple runs of the data to get it into a correct format and to pull the data that was appropriate for multiple groups. And so the person who was doing this was using up about a third of their day, really, to get all these reports to different people, which took away from their ability to do their job. The summary tabulations that they were rendering were complex as far as the parameters, and we'll show you how to overcome that barrier. And it was very difficult for them to monitor their case volume and the workflow status. So we'll show you an example of how you can do that. So what we did is we went in and we said, tell us all your frustrations. We got the user requirements, and we were able to develop the BIP custom reports. And what is cool about it from a non-technical standpoint is it's really like plug and play, or like putting Legos together. So you start with a pile of stuff that looks really disorganized, and you end up having something that, you know, that looks useful and that is functional. So it alleviated that pain point. It was much faster for this particular partner. The frustration level went nearly to zero. The data that they pulled did not have to be manually manipulated in any way. It was more accurate, and it saved time on some of their more expensive resources, such as medical review, because the data was formatted for their medical monitors in a way that it made it easier for them to assess the data. And also they had better oversight of their case volumes and their SLAs by our outsourcing vendor. And we know that by recent and ongoing inspections and audits, that is a key point, that if you are outsourcing any of your PV activities, you need to be able to show that you are monitoring those activities, and that you're having that dialogue with your vendor. So I will turn it over to Kruthi, who's going to go through some sample BIP reports. And again, this is one of the ways and the tools within Argus Safety where you can take something that may seem difficult or disorganized, and to create something that's functional. So Kruthi, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kari. Yeah, so to talk about the Argus reports, right? So when I say Argus reports, I mean the aggregate reports, the line listings, your built-in Argus specific dashboards that are available within Argus, right? So these reports are great, but they also come with the limitation where sometimes the output data is not rendered in a format you need, or not all the data elements are available that you need to pull in a report, or you cannot pull it in a desired format, or you're unable to make any kind of customizations to the data elements or to the report itself. Now, here is one example that you see on my screen. This report is a great listing where I'm able to get all the case numbers for a specific product, you know, the event related information and the causality information. But you know, there is a limitation within Argus where if you use the listedness or the causality in your report, it renders in a different format with some additional rows and some blank columns, which would make it difficult to read and, you know, process or analyze this data. Right now.
And one, sorry to interrupt, Kruthi, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this is dummy data, that what you're looking at is just sort of stuff that is not true PV data.
Yes, that is right. Thank you, Kari. So this is another example, right? Like for the workflow metrics report that you get within Argus, this is a great report where you can get a count of cases based on the different workflow state, right? But it does not give you any retrospective workflow metrics or a current metrics for these workflow states, right? So these are some of the example reports. Now, if you want to have some custom reports, you can definitely use BIP. Now, what is BIP? BIP Publisher is a reporting tool which has the ability to create and manage highly formatted reports, and you can choose from a variety of data elements within Argus. Now, it also allows you to create report layouts that can be designed by the end users in a web browser. And this reduces the time and the cost that is needed to develop and maintain these reports. Now, let me quickly jump in to the first report. So this is my go-to report. You know, the report that I'm showing you right now is, of course, these did not magically arrive here, although I wish it did, maybe just with the magic wand. that would be cool. But we have to do some prior setup to have these reports come up, and we create something called as report templates, and we refer them as a data model in the BIP language. And this report template or a data model is where you define all your key data elements that is required for your report. uh, when I say data elements, it means like, your fields, like what kind of information you want to pull up. It could be case specific information. It could be your workflow specific information. It could be your user related information. So any, though that determines the data elements when I say data elements. And you can also determine like the parameters, based on what parameters do you want to filter the data. So you can determine that in your report templates. Now this is one sample report. It's the my to go report if you want to get an overview of all the data elements related to a case. It could be the event description, it could be your event preferred terms, it could be your seriousness criterias, it could be your relatedness, your expectedness, causality, even the patient information, and also the report submission dates, right? You can get a concatenated value of all the report submission dates for that case, right? And this is a comprehensive report. And yeah, and say suppose, for example, hey, I want to look up for cases, I want to look up say literature cases and maybe spontaneous cases from say March 1st. Okay, so I give my criterias here and I filter for the data. And there you go, I get the right report based on whatever filter criteria that I gave here. And these criteria are the parameters that you see here. You can add additional parameters, like if you want to add parameter like seriousness, if you want to add parameters like PT terms, if you want to look up for cases based on PT terms, you can add these and customize the way you need it. And the other good thing is it allows you to render this report or this output in various formats like HTML, PDF, RTF, Excel, and PowerPoint. Now, this is about the product listing, right? Now, so Kari, how would you use this if you were in another life?
So I think importantly, if I were in another life, I always kind of got chest pain when having to set up or do something that was new. So the first thing that I would do is I'm glad you asked, because you're the one who is going to be designing this for me. This is obviously a very large report. It has a lot of different data elements. I probably would not use all of them. But what I would do, let's say, for example, I am just looking for trends among the non-serious cases. So I probably would go in and I would, and here is the example of where you can plug and play. And here's how this reminds me so much of Legos. So I would go in and I just want to look at the non-serious cases. The good thing about the BIP is I can granulate down to the actual case level. So I definitely want the case number. I would like the suspect drug. I would like the SOC, and I would like the PT term. And I think I would like the, let's say, the report submission. And report submission can be configured to be either to a regulatory agency, or if you have SDEA agreements in place, you can just check and see and make sure that everything has been submitted. So I've taken the standard report that Kruthi has built, and now I'm customizing it for a particular use. And so you basically log in, you render, and I get this beautiful output. So I know that these are all non-serious, and it looks like, I'm making this up, it looks like that my preferred terms are about what I would expect. I am a little concerned now, I'm making this up again, because now I see that I have 3 cases that came in with pyrexia. So I might want to take a look at those 3 cases, which makes it very easy to do because I've got the case number. And if I want to change, the preferred term, or if I want to add another parameter, I can just go back, and let's say that I wanted to make sure that, and you can do this by increasing, you can add that. I'd like to look at the seriousness. So if we could pull over seriousness, this will show me that all of my cases, or the ones I'm looking at here, are non-serious, or I can change that to non-serious if I wish. I can change the suspect drug to a company product if I wish.
Yeah.
So it's very versatile. So I would look at this for trending. I would look at this to look at the number of events that I'm seeing. And if I did pick up that there was a cluster of new adverse events that were coming in, I probably would want to go back and dig down into those cases and take a look at that. So that's one example of how I would use it, Kruthi.
That is great, Kari. You can also format these reports where you can add company logo. If you want to group data, you can group the data, at each specific column. So it just gives you the liberty of formatting the report the way you need, just within a web browser, right?
And before, when we actually were sitting across the table from each other in different meetings, it was really common to get put in the hot seat where someone would ask you, oh, can you tell us how many cases we've received from February to March? And you're like, yes, I'll make a note of that, and I'll get that for you. You don't have to do that anymore. You can say, absolutely, yes, I can get it. I can get it for you right now. All I have to do is, I'm sitting there with my computer. I'm already logged into BIP. I can generate that report in real time, and I can deliver it to whoever is in the meeting that asked that question. So it's really kind of an on-demand thing, which makes the transfer of information much faster.
Yeah. Thank you, Kari. So moving on to the next report, right? The event relatedness report. So this report for me is more like a specialty report, which could be used for signal detection type of listings. If you want to look at the case data based on causalities, then this will be my report. Sometimes it's not always easy to categorize or group the cases into related or not related, because the values that you have in Argus, the values that are associated with relatedness, there are multiple values like possible, probable, related, and sometimes it's not always easy to categorize all these values together and group them as related or not related. So this report will allow you to do that, and it'll allow you to search for cases, not only search but also partition the cases based on the relatedness. So you will see that the partition is based on related and not related and unrelated, and you can choose to determine the partition whether it needs to be based on causality as reported or causality as determined. So whatever partition you see, these are associated with the type that you select here. And it also gives you an option to filter based on the seriousness for a specific time zone, for time range. If you want to search for any specific study or a product. Sometimes if you have an ongoing study and you would like to see the potential trends on which of the cases are related or unrelated based on the causality type, right, as reported or as determined, then you can use this report to do that.
And this is great. This is a great way to be able to layer and granulate down on the data itself. And one of the things that I might use this for is I might want to ensure that all of my study sites have the correct information to be able to determine relatedness, looking at the different adverse events. So I may want to take a look at this and make sure that I don't have a non-serious, or I have a serious case with the same PT term that's coded very differently, because I may want to take a look at the way that I have passed that information on to the medical monitor or the study site. I may want to take a look at just the initial receipt date, for example, and make sure that I'm getting the cases in on time. Or am I seeing sprinklings of different adverse events at different times? Perhaps my product is like a vaccine where I'm going to get spikes during the vaccination period. So this is good for any data that's in your Argus database, and it crosses the entire life cycle of the product, which makes it incredibly useful.
Right. Thank you for that, Kari. So moving on to the next set of reports, right? So far we took a look at the case-related reports, or the event-related reports. Now let's see some of the workflow-related reports, right? Now, workflow-related reports are one of such report is the workflow metrics total time and state. This report will help answer questions related to the details of the workflow states a case version went through in its workflow cycle. It can be used to derive the actual time spent in each workflow state for initial and for the follow-up version. And it can also be it can also help you to monitor the SLAs for workflow and for your audit, and also look at some of the trends where you might see that certain set of cases is being spent in a specific workflow state for a large amount of time, and you may want to know why so, and you may want to improve your case processing and take necessary actions. But yeah, this report, if you see here, you can filter based on the case seriousness. It will also show you the current state, and it will show you the time spent in each of the workflow states. Since this is dummy data, you will see that a lot of hours is spent in the process case A and also in data entry, but this will really depend on the company's workflow rule or the workflow states that's been set up as per the company configuration. Yeah, and this is go ahead, Kari.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
think this is also a good report to kind of know the workload, also to see, which group is having to spend a lot of time, and probably you can also ease out on the workload between the different case processing groups.
So if I were to use this one in another life, I would expect that the serious cases probably would take a bit longer, because I'm making the assumption that they're going to be a little bit more complicated. And the other thing that this is going to help me do is, it is, as Kruthi spoke to, going to help me with SLAs and making sure that that I'm meeting my internal, and also if I'm outsourcing, that my vendor or my partner is meeting their SLAs. But it also helps me take a look at where I may be having inefficiencies. So let's say that I only wanted to look at cases in data entry. You have the ability to filter on data entry in this report and just look at that particular there you go, perfect. So it allows me to look at just where the cases are sitting and how long it's taking to get them through data entry. Well, I would be like probably having not only chest pain, but a perforated ulcer if I saw that some of my cases took 261 days for someone to do data entry. But if I do see some increases in time, or I see that something is backing up, it can allow me to look at the practices that I'm using in that particular workflow state, the number of resources that I'm using. Perhaps data entry is bogged down because it's the early morning time and I got a bulk of cases. I may want to redeploy additional people to help me get those cases entered and pushed into the workflow. So this is a really good report. You can also filter by dates so that if you want to look over time, you can see if there's any trends where in the morning, let's say, for example, I'm always seeing that there's a lag in one of the workflow areas. So I redeploy people to that, or I look at the way that I am working in that particular state, and it's an opportunity to make my process more efficient.
Yeah, and also it gives you kind of a log of all the workflow states, and ICSR went through, or it also tells you how long it took to complete a specific workflow state before transitioning to the next workflow state in a case.
So Kruthi, could we look at the total time that it took to process these let's say serious cases?
Yeah, here you go. So, not only BIP allows you to create flat reports, you can also kind of create simple visual pictorial reports, and you can have different parameters also for these graphs to appear dynamically.
So here it basically takes the bulk of cases that I have, correct, that you've defined, and this gives me an average time that a case was in data entry, or a case was at the workflow step case A, which would be 11 days. So rather than looking at individual cases, this is kind of an average time over whatever you have defined as your parameters, correct?
That is right.
And the visual at the bottom is really nice. You can see here that you have a spike in data entry. And this may be an early morning time, and you may want to redeploy, or you may want to look at the way that you're doing your data entry, because there are ways to definitely make that more efficient. Thanks for showing that, Kruthi. This is a good one.
Oh, thank you, Kari. And I think I'm done with the reports that I wanted to show today. And back to you, Eugene.
Okay, let me go through the questions. If you have any in the meantime, feel free to pop them in the questions box on your screen. Looks like we got a couple of them, so I'll just kind of go through them in order as they were asked. First question, does BI Publisher work with all versions of Argus?
No. Hey, Eugene, I'm going to take that question. So no, it works only for Argus versions 8 and above.
All right. Do individuals who are not users of Argus have access to BI Publisher?
Yes, they can access. The people who don't have, or users who don't have access to Argus can access the BIP reports.
And that's one of the nicer features of this, is that instead of someone having to call and ask an Argus user, could you please run a report for let's say a day in the life, and maybe Kruthi, if you have a report that can show a day in the life of a case that they could use, for example, for demonstrating. We could show that, and it would be very easy for someone who has access to BIP to be able to generate that particular report with their specific criteria. And I don't know if we have that, and we can go back and demo it.
Yeah, sure. I think we can demo the workflow day in the life of my cases, where we can filter for a specific case number.
So I'm looking, let's say I have a complaint, I have a product quality complaint, and I have an adverse event, and I want to take a look at that case. But I'm not an Argus user because I work in another group. So I ping you or I call you and I'm like, Kruthi, can you pull this case up, and can we look at the metrics around it so that I can see when it came in, and is it still in the workflow? Was it serious? I don't have enough information and my group doesn't know.
So if you know what you're looking, if you already know which case you're looking for, you can just search for that specific case. If not, you can probably export it and just look up for the case number that you're looking for. And say, suppose I'm looking for this specific case. Okay, so the seriousness is, it is a serious case. It was routed at this specific time, and right now it's in process case A status. And you know, this case probably was only routed once, so you just see 2 entries. But if it went through the workflow 4 or 5 steps, you will have 4 or 5 rows that will show you the exact time that it was routed, how much time did it spend in each of these workflow state.
And also, this is a really nice report for looking and making the decision. Okay, I received follow-up information. Do I have enough time, since this is serious and I'm on that 15-day time period? I've received follow-up information. Do I have enough time to really process that and get it in as all initial, or do I need to go ahead and push this case through and submit it and then begin working on the follow-up? So that actually is really helpful. Kruthi, can I look at, let's say, I don't know what the numbers are, if we have anything in the 80s range. Okay, there we go. Perfect, 85.
85?
Or 86 would be good.
Okay.
And so this is another way that you can granulate down, and you can look for specific information. And somebody's asking me about case number 85 or 86, and why this one maybe outside of the SLA, or why it's taking so long for this case to go through, because it's a non-serious case, and you can see where it is in the workflow. It's a new case, and really it hasn't done anything as of yet, which is what I would expect, because serious is going to be priority over non-serious. But I can look above, and you know, that 1086, why did it take 267 days for that to be processed? So if you're looking at if you're looking at metrics or if you're looking at an outlier, you're able to push and pull different different data into the report so that you can resolve any issues or questions around that. Okay. Thanks, Kruthi. Eugene, we can go back to the questions. Thanks.
Sure, sounds good. So next question, is there any report which displays summary tabulation?
Yeah, yes, I think we showed, if you're talking about summary tabulations of adverse events, or if you are talking about like the aggregate information on the average time that a case was it took to process, yes. You can certainly configure that for whatever parameters that you're looking for. Again, going back to the importance of being able to have that conversation like Kruthi and I are talking today. She didn't know that I was going to ask her to pull that report back up. But the fact that during the time that we were building this report, we were asking questions back and forth. Do you think you will ever need this particular data field? I already have it in my, I'll just use the selection of Legos, and I can pull that right in and I can generate it. Anything else, Kruthi, that you want to add to that from the technology standpoint?
No, I think you covered it also. We definitely we need to understand on what exactly the output should be rendered, and we can definitely build customized reports based on the needs.
Yep. And once you've done a few of these, this is a really powerful way to enable your team or your group to be able to really expand the use of your Argus safety system, maybe in a way that you're not currently using it.
All right, move on to the next question. We need reports generated several times per day. Can they be put on an auto schedule and emailed without having to run them?
Yes, we can schedule them. We can have multiple schedules also for a specific report.
Okay, next question is, can the reports be locked so they cannot be altered by another person?
Yes, we can have report level access set up. Like if you want only some of them to a couple, if you have a user group who would be responsible for updating the reports, then yeah, you can definitely define some access management around those reports.
And I think that this is important because we've all had the frustration of going through and building a report, and then somebody comes in behind you and they may alter it in a way that you can't figure out what they've done. Your report doesn't look the same anymore, or maybe you don't notice and the data is different and can be misinterpreted. And that's one of the things about aggregate data and looking at your PV data is you really have to understand what the data is telling you so that you don't make any erroneous assumptions, and being able to segregate who has access to what reports can help your team focus on the information that they need and not bring out any confusion among other groups, or back to my original point, screw up all the stuff that you've done to get the report exactly how you want, and somebody comes behind you and messes it up.
All right, thank you. The next question refers to a recording. So we are going to be sending a recording of this webinar within the next business day or so. So you can look out for that. Next question is, can an Argus admin build these and publisher for only specific users to be able to run these reports that have been created.
Sorry, Eugene, can you come again with the question, please?
Yeah, so can an Argus admin build these and publisher, maybe, and publish for only specific users to be able to run the reports that have been created?
Yes, the Argus admin can publish these reports. And to answer the second part of the question, if you can publish the reports only to a specific users, yes, you can restrict the access to these reports to a specific user group.
Great. Can versions of the report be saved, and if they get changed later?
Yes, they can save the the reports in different versions. We can probably have something like a master template, and all you have to do is just make a copy of that, and you can alter the report the way you want it and rename it. You can even remove columns, add columns, and maintain several versions of it.
All right. Can you pull in any data field within Argus into BI Publisher custom reports?
Yes, so it depends, like, if you can pull any data element, whatever is available in Argus, you can definitely pull all of those data elements. But if you want to customize them, we will probably have to add some logic to customize the data elements.
Okay. And the last question at the moment is, are these reports validated?
I can take that one. The ones that we showed you are just demo reports, but for the partners where we have helped them set up the BIP reports, yes, they did go through formal validation so that they fit within the validated state of Argus.
Okay. Looks like a question came in. Can you create a report to run across multiple studies?
Yes, and also products, and also based on seriousness. Yes.
And Kruthi, that goes back to the report where it was really partitioned and layered out so that
Right.
you could select, correct? Okay.
Yes, based on the relatedness. Yeah.
Okay. It looks like we've exhausted all the questions. So I think we're good there. If you do have questions still, you're welcome to email Kari or Kruthi. Their contact information will be in the presentation that you will receive within a day or so. And feel free to access the recording and share it with your colleagues. It'll also be published on Proficient's website. And with that, we'll call that a day. Thank you so much for joining today's presentation. We hope that the information Kari and Kruthi provided was helpful. We look forward to having you attend future webinars. And again, if you have any questions or requests, feel free to email us anytime. So thank you so much for joining today, and have a great rest of the day and evening.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.